What's up everybody, welcome to Risky Bitness. Today we're talking about Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Circle of the Moon was Konami's follow-up to the amazing Symphony of the Night, and the franchise's first appearance on the Game Boy Advance. And when I first played it, I didn't like it. I was hungry for another PS1 game in the same vein as Symphony, so when I found out the next big Castlevania title was going to be a handheld, I was not really happy about that. I still wound up buying a GBA, and I bought Circle of the Moon. I played it for like 2 hours, and then it sat in my GBA carrying case for probably like 20 years. Holy crap, I am old. Released in 2001. First in Japan in March, and then the rest of the world in June. Castlevania Circle of the Moon was developed by KCEK, a Konami subsidiary. As such, famous cowboy vampire Koji Igarashi did not work on this title. Instead, it was produced by Shigeru Umezaki and Etsunobu Ebisu. Umezaki is best known for developing the NES port of Contra and the Ganbare Goemon series, known as Mystical Ninja in the West. Umezaki has also worked on the giant pile of excrement that is Castlevania 64 and its polished turd follow-up, Legacy of Darkness.
Yeah, well, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Ebisu, in addition to working on many projects with Umezaki, is also known for The Adventures of Bayou Billy, Batman Returns, and Kid Dracula. Today, both Ebisu and Umezaki run Good Feel Incorporated, a developer which has worked on many Nintendo titles, including Yoshi's Woolly World and Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn. Being that this game was made by an alternate team, it should be no surprise that it's not part of the canonical Castlevania universe. There has been some confusion over this, as many fans believe that Igarashi decanonized the game. However, he later clarified in interviews that Circle of the Moon was never intended to be part of the main series timeline. Instead, it's a gaiden, a side story, that takes place in an alternate reality. Think of it a little bit like the multiverse approach to comic books. If Simon Belmont is Peter Parker, then Circle of the Moon protagonist Nathan Graves is Miles Morales. Before the universes converged. Taking place in Austria in the year 1830, Circle of the Moon begins with our heroes Morris Baldwin, his son Hugh, and student Nathan entering the castle to confront the villainess Camilla, who leads a cult that seeks to resurrect Dracula. This is starting to sound just a little bit familiar. The big bad himself returns, though not at full strength, and he casts Nathan and Hugh down into the abyss while taking Morris captive. From here, the player takes control of Nathan, who must traverse the castle to rescue his mentor. A common point of confusion. Morris Baldwin is not related to the Morris clan from the main Castlevania timeline. In addition to Morris being his first name and not his last, Igarashi has clarified that this was a localization error, and his real name was supposed to be Maurice. Some people call me Maurice. The story is told in a similar fashion to Symphony of the Night, with Hugh appearing from time to time in short skits that advance the plot. Through this, we learn that Nathan's parents died sealing Dracula away, with Morris Baldwin decades earlier, and that the vampire hunter then took Graves under his wing, entrusting him with the Hunter Whip, the bane of all vampires, which is linked to magical cards. Think of it as this universe's answer to the vampire killer. Hugh reveals that he's jealous that his own father chose Nathan over him, and he becomes an adversary rather than a partner. The first thing that really struck me about this game is that the graphics very much look like handheld graphics. There's very little detail, tons of pixelization, and the backgrounds and the environments look bland and boring compared even to the 16-bit Castlevania titles. While the GBA's LCD screen does help with this to a degree, it still just doesn't look very good. This is somewhat forgivable since it's an early GBA launch title. Later games on the GBA had much better optimization, so it's likely the developers simply didn't know how to utilize the hardware just yet. In spite of this, Kazuko Fujihara's art feels natural and at home in a Castlevania game, giving all the necessary respect to what we expect from a Castlevania game. While many monster and creature designs are borrowed from Rondo and Symphony, new enemies and designs can be found throughout the castle, and they all look and feel like they belong here. The boss designs are excellent, and Camilla in particular is a sight to behold, not just for the obvious reasons. Sadly, I was unable to locate much information about Fujihara, just a handful of titles he worked on, none of which are particularly notable. This is unfortunate, and it makes me wonder what Fujihara is up to these days. It goes without saying that Castlevania is known for its incredible music. Compressors Sotaro Tojima, Hiroshi Mitsuoka, and Taro Kuro do well here in capturing the dark and adventurous feel of Castlevania. The menu screen features an impressive rendition of Pie Jesu called Requiem here, and that's complete with a chorale, and even the Vampire Killer tune makes an appearance in the final area of the game. While some of the tunes are memorable, I did feel that by and large, I didn't walk away from this one with an earworm like I often do when playing other Castlevania games. It's also puzzling that 3 composers were used on a game with such a small scope when compared to other titles in the same franchise. The GBA is also notorious for its rather poor sound quality, so to make the composition of a great soundtrack is quite an accomplishment, especially so early in the system's lifecycle. Tojima is best known for providing audio direction for the Halo and Metal Gear series. Mitsuoka seems to have no credits to his name apart from this game. Taro Kudo is a bit of a renaissance man, having worked as a producer, composer, writer, designer, and voice actor on various games including Super Castlevania 4, Paper Mario Sticker Star, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. When I first began playing Circle of the Moon, I was very disappointed. I wanted a cool, sexy, goth vampire swordsman, not another dude with a whip. But nevertheless, a dude with a whip is what we got. While Nathan's whip can't turn into a morning star, you can spin it by holding the B button, which is a great way to protect yourself from small enemies or projectiles. It's not as cool as Simon brandishing his whip in Super Castlevania 4, but it's a nice touch nevertheless. Nathan can also slide kick across the floor. This is a much more useful move than Alucard's backslide ever was. It can damage enemies and allows Nathan to explore some parts of the castle, just like Symphony of the Night. Circle of the Moon takes place in a huge castle with large platforming sections, including both horizontal and vertical rooms filled with enemies. Some of these rooms are absolutely massive. As Nathan reveals more of the map, the in-game map will fill up to show you where you've been. Just as before, Nathan can whip walls to reveal hidden rooms, and must obtain a variety of special abilities in order to fully reveal all parts of the castle. While this is often referred to as a non-linear game, that isn't strictly the case. Nathan has hard limits of where he can go until a given boss is defeated, granting him a new power. These include a dash, a double jump, a wall jump, a shoulder tackle that breaks blocks, an ability that allows large bricks to be pushed out of the way, and finally the ability to leap high into the air, which is akin to flying. As always, sub-weapons can be picked up, and these consume hearts when used. Only 4 classic sub-weapons are available: the dagger, axe, holy water, and cross. Once you find the cross, it's best to stick with it for the rest of the game, due to its incredible power and Nathan's ability to throw up to 3 of them at a time. The RPG elements return here, as Nathan can gain experience levels by fighting monsters. Each level increases Nathan's maximum HP, MP, and hearts, as well as his 4 base stats: strength, defense, intelligence, and luck, each of which directly impacts his power. Just as in Symphony of the Night, luck has a huge impact on the likelihood of an enemy dropping a given item, with some drops being extremely rare and taking hours of tedious grinding to obtain. This seems like an odd choice for a handheld title, where playtime is usually limited by battery life, and how long one can comfortably hold the unit, which is nothing to say of the Game Boy Advance not having a backlit screen in its original release. To make matters worse, there's no in-game bestiary, so keeping track of what enemy drop you have and haven't gotten yet can be a real chore. Luckily today we can just look it up on the internet, so that helps. The special gimmick of Circle of the Moon is DSS, or the Dual Setup System. This pairs magical cards together. These cards can be found throughout the game by defeating certain enemies. Some of them drop very frequently and easily, and others are incredibly rare drops. There are 2 types of cards: attribute cards and action cards. By combining an attribute card with an action card, Nathan can use a special ability. There are 10 action cards and 10 attribute cards, meaning a total of 100 powers can be used. However, only 1 DSS ability can be used at a time. These abilities run the gambit from virtually useless to completely indispensable. You can use these cards to increase base stats, heal yourself, change your whip into a different weapon, summon creatures to cast powerful magic spells, use item crash, summon a familiar, and more. Most of the cards are rare drops, but some can only be found in the game's optional battle arena, where Nathan must fight through 17 floors of powerful enemies in order to complete the zone and win all of its secrets. This task is easier said than done, as the monsters here are stronger than any other monsters that you're likely to face in the castle. The assortment of items that Nathan can carry is much smaller than that of Symphony of the Night, and there's no money or shop, so healing items can be extremely hard to come by. They only drop from a few enemies, and if you want to stock up, you'll have to farm them. More often than not, you'll find yourself using DSS to heal while standing still. One big improvement over Symphony of the Night is that these items can simply be used. They don't have to be clumsily held in the hand and then used with the weapon button. You can use them just like you would an item in any RPG. Nathan can't equip a different weapon, but he can change his armor, and he has 2 accessory slots. The small variety of items includes a number of effects, and many items can be obtained early in the game if you're willing to grind for them. And these items significantly improve your stats, so it's best to go after them as soon as you can. Curse, stone, and poison statuses are a much bigger nuisance here, as the game is designed to curse or poison you, while other more powerful enemies attack. Some DSS combinations can protect you or even heal you when you're affected. This also goes for turning into stone as well. The boss fights here, though, are underwhelming, and I found them to be much too easy, especially since grinding for items can result in outleveling the content early on. The only exception is Dracula's final form, which can one-shot you really easily if you're not careful.
Oh, you see this guy? See this guy? Number 1 bullshit guy.
But the fight's still pretty lame, and you're going to spend most of it in the sky waiting for Dracula to stop. There are some enemies that will only appear after you've defeated a specific boss. This is a nice touch because it adds some challenge to traversing areas of the castle that you've previously explored. Warp rooms exist, but Nathan cannot move around this castle as quickly or as easily as Alucard moved around his. Not only are there fewer shortcuts, but many areas have puzzles which must be completed each time you enter them, even if Nathan has powers which you might reasonably expect could bypass them. The castle isn't very large either, but the layout is confounding and can be very frustrating, with save rooms often tucked away in far corners. It can be a real chore to navigate, and it's not very intuitive. The layout's just not that good. After you finish the game, you'll receive a password that allows you to play as a special class. You must finish the game as the current class before you can play as the next. Each class changes Nathan's stats and may add or remove some abilities. The classes are Magician, Fighter, Shooter, and Thief, each with its own strengths and weaknesses that can make the game much more challenging. A demo at the Tokyo Game Show showed Hugh as a playable character, but this feature never made it to the official release. Circle of the Moon had solid reception, selling over 1 million copies. It was a tremendous critical success, getting a 9.5 out of 10 from EGM, 5 stars from GamePro, and Editor's Choice Awards from both GameSpot and IGN. I still have mixed feelings about this game. Today, I can kind of enjoy it for what it is, but I was very let down after waiting 5 years for a Symphony of the Night sequel and getting this instead. When I was playing it to make this video, there were times when I got bored and I didn't even want to finish it. Eventually I did, begrudgingly. Despite its incredible popularity, I have a hard time getting into this one. It just feels like a weak imitation of its predecessor. It's just a really anemic Symphony of the Night. Luckily, the next Castlevania game to be released on the GBA was much more my speed. In order to make sure you don't miss that video, please subscribe and enable notifications. Next time on Risky Business, I'm going to show you a lot... Next time on Risky Business, I'm going to show you how to use Launchbox to set up a front end for all of your emulation needs. Show notes and gameplay footage for this episode are now available on my Patreon. The link can be found in the description below. You can also find links there to my socials and some affiliate links. And hey, we made it this far, so why not check out that video that YouTube is suggesting? Oh, that one's good. You're gonna like that one. Thank you for watching, and until next time,